Well, this is actually kind of an exciting moment because I'm back to the very first thing I started working on, the ignition switch. It's been a long time since I've taken the old ignition switch off. So remembering what goes where is a little bit of a problem. However, I tend to videotape a lot of the things I work on, and so I was able to go back and look at those videotapes and figure this out. So the battery, I'm going to hook that one up first. The battery is our larger red cord, so I will start there. Now these ignition switches, you can get them at AutoZone, Advanced Auto Parts. It's just a basic ignition switch. They have little labels on them. We'll unscrew the screw that says battery, and then we'll hook the battery power line right up to the screw. Now I've got a greenish cord, an orangish cord, and a black cord. The way that I remember this is the black, the orange, and the smaller red were all on the ignition terminal. So we'll look at this. Ignition is this back side here. Screw it. Some of these wires are fairly brittle, so I'm not sure how that's going to affect the starting or not. I know that my orange colored cord goes to the ignition coil, so if I have trouble, I'll probably start doing something about those wires. Now finally, the green one attaches to what I guess it says solenoid, or SOL, I don't know what any of this is. And that cord's looking pretty horrific as well. The ignition switch will go into this hole here. Kind of have to slip it through and pull it up. There we go. I believe this is where I had a problem before. Okay, so I'm going to put one of these rings on there. It's kind of a spacer. Okay, now we can slide this through. When you put in an ignition switch, it's always a good idea just to check and make sure that it's sturdy enough to support the key turning. And there you go, I moved it so that's not in there tight enough. that's got to be pretty gosh darn tight. Now the next step is to put a battery in and see what happens. I'm not really sure which battery is supposed to go to this. What I have here is a 700 cold cranking amps, 875 cranking amps battery that I have borrowed from our tractor just to see if I can get this to start. The positive and ground are the same color, but I've noticed the ground grounds directly to the frame of the skid steer. So I know that that is our ground, and this has to be our positive because you only have a positive and a ground that go to a battery. So I've connected those wires. In theory, I now have power running into the skid steer. What I'm probably going to do next is just turn the key on and see if anything makes any noise. Fuel pump, anything like that. Before I do that, I'm going to put some fuel in the tank because if the fuel pump turns on, I don't want to damage it or burn it out because there's not fuel in the tank. So I will go get some fuel and we fill the gas. There's two places to fill the gas on either side of the frame here. You've got these gas caps that come off. And these look mighty corroded and nasty. There's really not a whole lot I can do about that at the moment. Okay, I'm gonna go get some gas. Get up, put some gas in there. And I'm seeing gas slowly pour into our fuel filter down there. That's good. I actually want to put some gas in both sides, so I'm gonna close this up and put some gas in the other side as well. But it's actually interesting because the fuel is filling into both of the fuel filters. So it seems like I could just keep pouring the fuel into one side and it will fill up on both sides. Baby steps here. The first thing I'm going to do is stick the key in and just turn it so it's in the on position. I could hear the fuel pump kicking on. That's exciting. I was worried the fuel pump wouldn't work. Just gonna okay, so we know that the fuel pump works. Now I'm gonna try and crank it. I apologize in advance if I blow up. I could hear the starter solenoid kick. I have some smoke. Let's see where that smoke came from. Okay, so the good news is at first we couldn't even get the motor to turn. But what I did was I just kept kind of playing with it and trying to get that starter to turn over. The starter is turning over, which means that the motor is turning. That is a good sign. But it does not appear that I'm getting spark. So I need a way to test and make sure that I'm getting spark on my spark plugs. And then from there, I'll be able to determine what my combustion problem is. Because right now, as I turn this, So I've pulled the spark plug just to check it, and it doesn't appear that the spark plug has fired. There's a lot of fuel on here, so the motor is definitely pumping the fuel through, but we're not getting any combustion.